Tim and the Mill by Ruslan Shafigullin. Chapter 1. The Mysteries of Old Man Horn. Tim was already wide awake, his mind buzzing like a hive of bees. The morning sun danced across the walls of his small room, painting cheerful light bunnies on the pictures.
Nice,
Tim thought, his eyes lighting up as he watched the chaotic swirl of light.
it would be an awesome prank to send one of those bunnies straight to old Bearhard Horn's face while he's napping in his walled garden. I'll just grab Grandma's little mirror and see if it works. Marta is getting back from Hamburg soon, too. What a perfect way to kick off the day.
Tim, you awake?
Tim's mother, Frau Greta Stefan, never climbed the stairs. She always woke him by calling his name from downstairs.
Wake up. Time for breakfast. Grandma's waiting. And don't forget to water the flowers.
Frau Stefan repeated the instruction about the flowers, and hearing his shout of,
I'm coming.
she started preparing the sandwiches. Tim quickly mapped out his day.
All right, first wash up, eat, help Grandma, and then hit the road on my bike. I've got a new one after all, and I need to test it out.
After leaving the bathroom, thinking about his plans, he pulled a chair over to his favorite spot by the window. Sitting down beside him, Frau Stefan asked,
Tell me, are you and Marta planning to go to Paris?
Yes, Mom. Our class excursion was organized through an agency.
And will any parents be coming?
Yes, in fact, Marta's parents signed up to accompany us, so Frau and Herr Nessler will be with us. We depart at 9 o'clock this Saturday. That means there are only 6 days left.
Well?
said Frau Stefan as she began kneading the dough for the evening cake. Tim grinned.
Cake? Awesome. I'll invite Marta over, Mom. It's going to be your delicious cake after all.
All right, of course, Tim.
He began getting ready for his bike ride, rummaging through his things.
Where's my cap? Where did I put it? Mom, have you seen my cap?
Frau Stefan, busy with her household chores, didn't hear him.
Well, that's fine. I'll go without it. Nothing's going to stop me today.
Wind, sun, the shimmering green wall of tall trees along the road revealed hidden corners of the old forest.
Beautiful.
Tim admired the view of the countryside and, gradually picking up speed, rode far from home.
Well, I'll rest a bit and then head back,
he decided, leaving his bicycle at the foot of a high hill.
All right, to the top. I wonder if I'll see our house from up there.
He quickened his pace, and Tim soon found himself at the peak. What he saw was breathtaking. A light haze lay over the treetops, which with their unhurried swaying wove whimsical lace into the air, and a gentle enveloping breeze drew them toward the distant horizon. His eyes were involuntarily drawn to familiar sights.
Neighbor Bearhard Horn's mill and our house. Just a blurred spot, almost a smudge. Old Man Horn's house behind the mill isn't visible at all. The mill. How extraordinary and mysterious it is.
Tim stared, mesmerized by every detail. An increasing monotonous sound interrupted his solitude. He listened.
Seems like a car. Yes, indeed, that's it.
A yellow car appeared on the descent of a small hill and began approaching the spot where the bicycle was parked. The car came to a stop, and from its open door, familiar outlines emerged.
Who's that? But it's Marta,
Tim said, his heart skipping a beat.
How did she get here? Marta, Marta.
He called out joyfully as he stepped toward her. She turned, greeted him with a wave of her hand, and said,
Tim, stay there. I'm coming to you.
Marta hurriedly climbed the hill, and, as usual when meeting her, Tim felt a slight nervous flutter in his chest. Let me share a little secret with you, dear reader. For Tim, Marta was the one and only. He wasn't always confident about his own qualities, and sometimes wondered,
why is Marta so friendly with me?
When they first met, Tim was shy about initiating conversation and about every glance she gave. She was the most beautiful girl at the folk festival held annually near Hamburg. Tim saw no one else but her.
Yes, I think that at the upcoming dance she probably won't choose me. I'll just be a bystander. And if Mom insists, I might even have to leave, since you can't leave Grandma alone for too long.
Tim was lost in thought until he felt gentle taps on his shoulder. Turning around, he froze in astonishment. Before him stood the one who had lived in his most unreachable dreams. Smiling, she extended her hand and introduced herself.
Marta Nessler.
He shook her hand and in barely audible tones managed to say,
Tim Steffen.
The new acquaintance laughed and said softly, almost imperceptibly.
All right, I'll call you by your name, just as you do.
Then, in a hushed whisper, she added.
Tim,
They both laughed, and that day swept them into a joyful dance, a moment that became Tim's first daydream come to life.
Here I am at the top. Hello.
Marta greeted, smiling.
Hi.
Perhaps a new subject for a painting?
No, not really. I'm just looking at our house.
From here the view is wonderful. You wouldn't even imagine. My mom and I noticed that you were nearby by one distinctive detail on your bicycle. Your sticker on the frame that says Tim in the Mill. You couldn't mistake it for anything else. Just the simple inscription of a dreamy Tim.
Oh, right.
Tim said with an embarrassed smile.
Are you coming back from Hamburg or did you go on business?
We're just heading home. We spent the night at Aunt's and set off early this morning. We never thought we'd run into you at such an early hour.
That's unexpected for me, too. There's a more convenient route to your village.
But that road has been under construction for a while now. They've been repairing it for a week.
I see. Look, Marta,
He said, gesturing into the distance.
do you see old Berhard Horn's mill? And next to it, my house, a blurred spot.
Yeah. Everything seems to shine off the mill.
It's the sun that lit it up. It's as if the mill were a giant lantern.
Oh, Tim, you've really let your imagination run wild. I like it. A solar lantern.
Marta smiled.
All right, your mom is probably waiting for us, isn't she? Shall we go?
She nodded, and as Tim helped her down the hill, he took her hand and said,
How about we head to Berhard Horn's mill this evening?
Yes, of course. Arrive a little earlier.
Marta, you know, I've been wanting to tell you about the secret of the mill for a while.
They stopped.
Secret? Interesting. What secret?
Marta said in astonishment.
Later tonight, it's a long story. Let's head to the car.
Tim greeted Frau Nessler, and at Marta's request, she drove the car slowly so that her daughter could continue chatting with Tim. He talked about his new sketches and a chance encounter with their mutual acquaintance, Dieter. As Tim passionately expounded his thoughts on the unfinished oil painting, captivating both himself and his listeners, he suddenly stopped and fell silent. Frau Nessler slowed the car. Together with Marta, she asked,
Tim, are you all right?
He nodded affirmatively.
Yes, I'm fine. Frau Clara Nessler, just 1 minute, please. Wait for me.
After riding a short distance in the opposite direction, Tim stopped under the shade of a large old linden tree. For several seconds, he studied intently the dense green of its wide, sprawling canopy. Then, turning around, he quickly caught up with the car. Frau Nessler looked curiously toward the tree, and Marta asked,
Tim, what is it?
I just noticed an unusual bird, one I've never seen before, alas.
Is it big?
About the size of a pigeon.
And what's special about it?
The bird has an elongated beak and its coloring is just like that of a pigeon.
Maybe you mistook it for a pigeon?
Marta smiled. Tim returned the smile and said,
Maybe I did, but I'm not sure.
All right, then, let's drive off slowly,
said Frau Nessler. At a fork in the road, they agreed to meet again at 6 o'clock in the evening. Tim said his goodbyes and, absorbed in his thoughts, leisurely pedaled on his new bicycle. Later he went into the living room, where, as usual, Grandma was reading by the fireplace.
And where's Mom?
She went to the store. We made some apple juice together. It's on the stove in the kitchen. Have a sip. It refreshes with a gentle tang.
Grandma said before heading to her room. Tim poured himself some juice and settled into a large armchair. He mentally replayed the morning's events.
This is something extraordinary. When I rode away from home, I bumped my head on a branch of that linden. There were times before when my cap would fly off if I hadn't ducked in time. But here? On the way back, the branch suddenly seemed higher. Now it's about a meter above me. What wonders? Maybe the branch was raised because of a collision. A freight truck. Unlikely. The road is too narrow for large vehicles. How mysterious. I'm going to check out that linden.
Tim decided. He finished his juice and went into Grandma's room, saying,
I'm going to take a little ride. And thanks for the drink. It's delicious.
All right, but not for too long. Lunch is coming soon, and your mom and I will be waiting for you.
Grandma said.
Yeah, Grandma.
Tim reached the spot faster than ever before and then began slowly walking around the tree, thinking to himself,
Strange. There aren't any bends. And even the proportions, geometrically speaking, seem plausible. I don't know. Maybe I've never really paid attention before. All right, I'll step aside.
He leaned his bicycle against part of a tree trunk at the edge of the field and walked far into the woods. Settling himself on his jacket amid the tall grass, Tim began examining the quirky perimeter of the enormous canopy. Suddenly, the linden grew right before his eyes. The trunk thickened in the blink of an eye, and its branches, bending and stretching even wider as they embraced the translucent morning air, started creeping upward. With the tree's sudden movement, the bicycle toppled over. Tim sprang to his feet in an instant.
How can that be? Simply miraculous,
he said. A few seconds later, the growth stopped. Entranced by what he'd seen, Tim couldn't move. His thoughts spun around the most incredible possibilities.
This really happened. Perhaps it's an unknown variety of linden, but why just today? Or is it someone's experiment? What's next? I'll wait and see.
After what felt like torturous minutes, a full half hour of waiting for any further signs, he finally got back on his bicycle, thinking,
Time to go home before Grandma and Mom start worrying.
Not long after, as he pedaled along, Tim noticed someone coming toward him. As he got closer, he recognized his neighbor, the old Herr Bernhard Horn.
Hello, Herr Bernhard Horn.
Hello, Tim. I see you're already out on your bike early this morning. In weather like this, it makes for a great ride. I, too, felt like taking a spin on such a sunny day to check out some beautiful places.
Yeah, it's a fine day. But today, amazing things happened. On my first ride, I noticed that on an old linden, a branch had risen significantly, almost a meter. To be sure, I decided to return to that tree. I thought I'd find signs of a break, maybe from a vehicle. But unexpectedly, the linden grew so quickly, as if time didn't exist, so high, unimaginable, simply unimaginable. Can you believe it, Herr Bernhard Horn?
The old horn fell silent and, bending over, gazed thoughtfully down the road. Then the cry of a bird inadvertently shattered the established silence. He lifted his head and in a sing-song voice declared,
The sky. The clouds drift slowly like old ships sailing to new and newer shores. And behind them, new times. Yes, now new times are coming.
New times? What do you mean?
Tim asked. Taking 2 deliberate steps forward and looking directly into Tim's eyes, Herr Bernhard Horn said,
Today, Tim, the day has come. I will give you the answers to your questions. More than mere answers. I invite you to my home at 7 o'clock.
Herr Bernhard Horn invited me into his home. That has never happened before.
Tim thought, initially flustered.
Yes, of course. All right, Herr Bernhard Horn. Thank you, I'll definitely come. May I?
He began, but before he could finish, he heard Herr Horn say,
Yes, Tim, come with Marta. I'll be waiting for you. Are you surprised? I know many things. See you at my place.
Smiled old Herr Horn as he mounted his bicycle.
See you.
Tim mumbled, watching his neighbor Bernhard Horn disappear behind the grove.
The day has come,
he mused.
One secret after another. Yes, today I must finally tell Marta about what happened 8 years ago. Back then, when I was a 6-year-old boy, no one believed me. Mom said it was nothing but boundless childhood imagination. Perhaps tonight some light will be shed on that incident. New times, Bernhard Horn's mysteries.
At lunch, Tim didn't utter a single word. His mind was occupied by the morning's events. Frau Stefan looked questioningly at Grandma, and Grandma simply shrugged.
Tim, you're so quiet. Is something wrong?
Don't worry, Mom. Everything's fine. I'm off to do some drawing. I've got new ideas to try.
It already looks like Tim. I recognize it.
Grandma jokingly agreed.
I like all your work. Will you show me the latest one?
Yeah, but it just needs a little reworking.
To get to the proper perspective, Tim had placed his easel with the unfinished painting in the far corner of the room, and now he was once again searching for the key to harmony. Let me tell you, dear reader, that on the canvas there was a depiction of a mill and the house of old Berhard Horn. Nearby, a road curved around the dwelling on the right and vanished under the translucent shadow of trees into endless expanses, heading toward Marta's home village. The colors on the canvas intertwined into a tangle of endless, vibrant sequences, each one playing its own unique note with its neighbors. The piece appeared complete, at least. That's what Marta thought, but Tim felt it lacked a certain persuasive power, so he kept exploring different options as he continued to paint.
What about a river instead of the road?
He mused.
Although everything is painted from life, the road just doesn't fit the plan. But why? Colors never simply fall apart from a whole. Perhaps I'm mistaken. All right, I'll start over. Maybe something will become clear.
The hours flew by unnoticed.
5:40.
Tim suddenly said.
I've got to go pick up Marta.
Rushing to make up for the minute he'd lost, he noticed upon approaching the village that he was arriving exactly on time. Near the Nestler family's home, in a small summer gazebo, Marta was spreading out colorful pieces of fabric and paper templates on a table.
Hi, Marta.
Hi, Tim. My mom and I have planned on sewing a new dress. I'm just about to get ready.
She gathered everything into a huge basket and began moving it toward the door.
Marta, let me help. It'll be easier,
he offered. Smiling, he grasped the bottom of the basket with both hands and carried it into the entryway.
Thanks. So, how was your day, Tim?
In short, I can hardly say there's ever been a day like today. Unimaginable things began happening from early morning. Marta, I'll tell you all about it at home. And also, old Berhard Horn invited us into his house.
Old Horn? He invited us?
Marta said in astonishment.
That's so unexpected, with so much happening at once.
Yeah, Marta, shall we go?
Sure, let's go. But if I'm honest, I'm a bit scared. You know, Old Horn leads such a reclusive life and hardly talks to anyone. We just say hello, and then an invitation into his house.
Tim, too, felt a certain unease, yet the thought that fear might control his life filled him with revulsion.
Marta, everything will be fine. If you're in doubt, remember that there's always tomorrow. You see, I'm going anyway.
No, we're going together. So, first, to your house?
Yeah, Marta, let's go.
Let's go.
At the doorstep, they caught the aroma of freshly baked treats, and Frau Steffen invited them to the table.
Mom, we'll savor your delicious pie a bit later. I'll show Marta my new sketches, and then we'll take a stroll down to the pond shortly afterward.
All right, Tim, don't take too long. It's getting dark early now, and you still need to see Marta off.
Yeah, we won't be long, don't worry.
Upstairs, in the room, Marta looked at the unfinished painting curiously and settled into an armchair.
I'm waiting for your story, Tim,
she said. Tim looked out the window and began.
I was 6 years old. One summer day I was playing near the house and hardly noticed anything else. I remember running after a ball and with it heading to the window to look at the mill. And the mill. It seemed as if it had come alive. The tiled roof transformed into a cylinder that slowly stretched and stretched toward the ground, and then a milky beam shot up into the sky. I could see that some object was moving inside it, and as the beam followed its movement, the object gradually disappeared. In mere seconds, it merged with the blue. Then the reverse transformation began, the tiled cylinder reverting into the mill's roof. I watched for a while, waiting for more to happen. Then Mom entered the room and asked me something. She listened to what I had seen with astonishment and said that it was nothing more than boundless childhood imagination mixed with tiredness. I couldn't agree because I saw it all with my own eyes. In any case, that evening we decided to go see our neighbor Berhard Horn and tell him about what had happened. It all turned out strangely. After dinner we headed to old Herr Horn's house, and he unexpectedly came out to meet us. After greeting each other, Mom asked him to listen to my story, and our neighbor kindly invited us to sit in his garden. I told him about the wonders at the mill. Old Herr Horn took it all rather reservedly and promised to examine it carefully, agreeing with Mom that he would come by our house the next day.
Did he come?
Asked Marta.
Yes, but according to him, the mill remained in its original state. I asked whether he had examined the roof thoroughly, and old Herr Horn smiled and commended my persistence. Grandma offered coffee, and our guest, gladly accepting, began asking about our hobbies. He studied our albums of drawings for a while, and while praising the successful pieces, spoke about the pursuit of harmony. And then old Herr Horn turned to me and said, "Tim, don't lose your feelings. They are your guide to the truth." I didn't know what to say. I remembered those words. After thanking him for his hospitality, old Herr Horn left, and he left his story unfinished. Marta, there's something mysterious about the mill. He left it unsaid 8 years ago, and perhaps today Horn will reveal its secrets.
Yes, Tim, incredible events. But what happened today?
Tim described in detail the incident with the linden tree and his conversation with old Herr Horn. Marta, coming to the window, whispered,
New times. What does Horn mean by those words?
"Oh, it's time to go out,"
Tim said.
The clock reads 1857.
Yes, let's go, Tim.
They quickly approached their neighbor Horn's house and exchanged glances at the door. Tim pressed the doorbell, and the sound of slow footsteps was heard.